Hello friends, welcome to Dungeons & Dragonfly, where I adapt various characters for use in D&D. I'm Dragonfly9078, and today I'm building TF2's Sniper. After the build, be sure to check out my channel to vote for the next one. So what do we want from this build? Well, surprising no one, the Sniper needs to be a sniper, making precise shots from a distance that deal massive damage. To be most effective, we need to go unnoticed and find a high vantage point to cover the most ground, so we'll need good stealth and climbing speed. And the Sniper used to make his living as a game hunter in the Australian outback, so we'll need the outdoors skills to survive. Looking over at ability scores, I'll be using the standard point array. If you want to roll for stats, that's fine, just make sure your dexterity and wisdom are high enough to multiclass. Starting off with a 10 in strength, we don't need it for much, but it does get used for our kukri. Dexterity's 15, we need our ranged attacks to have high accuracy, then we'll make Constitution 13. Sniper isn't the toughest of the crew, but he does have the endurance to sit still for ages waiting for the right shot. Intelligence is 12, New Zealanders in TF2 tend more towards the intellectual side than their Australian cousins, and wisdom can be 14. We need it for our perception, and really, sitting far away from the battlefield is just good sense. Then we'll finish off by dumping charisma. Sniper isn't exactly what you would call a people person, and he's perfectly happy being alone as much as possible. Sniper is a human, of course, but since he's one of the last surviving members of New Zealand, he's a little bit special, so we'll go with the mark of finding. That'll bump Wisdom to 16 and Constitution to 14, and give us 60 feet of dark vision since we're accustomed to nights in the outback. Our Hunter's Intuition adds a d4 to any perception or survival checks we make, and we get a little bit of magic, both the spells of the mark, which are added to the spell lists of any of our spellcasting classes, and Finder's Magic, which lets us cast Hunter's Mark once per day for free, and locate object the same way once we hit 3rd level. Then, just like the rest of them, Sniper is a mercenary veteran, giving us proficiency with athletics, persuasion, and land vehicles. We'll start off as a ranger, giving us 3 skills from the ranger list, like stealth, perception, and insight. We're going to be using the official version of Natural Explorer, so we get a favored terrain, and since we're most accustomed to the outback, we'll name Desert. We double our proficiency bonus for any intelligence or wisdom checks we make regarding deserts, and we get a bunch of bonuses to overland travel in them, like ignoring difficult terrain, not getting lost, and better foraging and tracking, that sort of stuff. That said, instead of picking a favorite enemy, we'll use favored foe, since the Sniper is one of the most, if not the actual most, professional of the mercenaries, meaning whoever he's hired to kill is really his favorite enemy. A number of times per day equal to our proficiency bonus, we can mark a creature that we hit with a weapon attack. The first time we hit them on each of our turns, we deal an extra 1d4 damage, including the hit that we used to mark them. They stay marked for up to a minute, but this does actually require a concentration like casting a spell would. For our fighting style, archery is the obvious choice, adding +2 to our ranged weapon attack rolls. Then we get 2 spells off the ranger list. First up, Absorb Elements can give us resistance to an energy type as a reaction. We'll mostly use this as Darwin's Danger Shield against enemy pyros. Then Fairy Fire comes to us from the Mark of Finding and is weirdly accurate to the Jarate. We lob the jar, which splashes on everything in a 20-foot cube unless they pass a dex save. On a fail, affected creatures can't become invisible, and attacks against them have advantage. I don't really like any of the ranger subclasses for Sniper, so we'll jump over to Rogue for a while. Dipping into Rogue gives us a free skill, we'll say Intimidation, and upgrades 2 skills to Expertises. Stealth and Perception are probably the most important for us, so go with those. Most significantly, we can make Sneak Attacks, adding a d6 to the damage of our ranged weapon attacks if we have advantage on the attack, or a friend within arm's reach of the attack target. That damage goes up as we level up, and is going to be one of the keys to getting our headshots. Cunning Action at 2nd level lets us dash, disengage, or hide with our bonus action so we can shoot, then duck back behind cover, then Steady Aim at 3rd puts a scope on our gun. As a bonus action, we can get advantage on our next attack in the turn, which means Sneak Attack on demand. The catch is that scoping slows us down, as we can't move before or after taking aim, but at least our Sneak Attack damage does go up to 2d6, so there's that. As a scout, we get expertise in nature and survival, so we can expand our wilderness expertise past the outback. And as a skirmisher, we can move up to half our speed as a reaction to an enemy ending their turn within 5 feet of us. We don't even provoke opportunity attacks by moving this way, so we can get some distance and make use of our rifle if someone sneaks up on us. 4th level gets us our first feat, and you knew we would be getting Sharpshooter in this build. Our ranged attacks ignore partial cover, we can attack out to the long range of our weapons without getting disadvantage, and when we make a ranged weapon attack, we can choose to take -5 to the attack roll for +10 to the damage. Our sneak attack ticks up to 3d6 at 5th level, and we have Uncanny Dodge, letting us halve the damage of an attack that hits us using our reaction. We do have to be able to see the target though, so if a spy backstabs us, we're out of luck. Then at 6th level, we get 2 more Expertises. We'll say Athletics to offset our poor strength, and Insight to predict our target's movements. Evasion lets us take no damage on a successful dex save and only half on a fail, rather than half on a success and full damage on a fail. And with our next ASI, we'll grab the Skulker feat. That lets us try to hide even if we're only lightly obscured, and lets us ignore penalties to our perception because of dim light. Of course, we do already have dark vision, but remember that that makes us treat dim light as bright and darkness as dim, so this does still help. Most importantly for us, if we're hidden and we miss with a ranged attack, we don't reveal our position. Then our sneak attack hits 5d6, and our superior mobility increases our walking speed by 10 feet. Next up is the Piercer feat, which rounds off our dexterity to 16. Once per turn, we can reroll a piercing damage die, and if we crit with a piercing attack, we roll an additional die for the damage. 11th level rogues are more consistent with their skills with reliable talent, meaning we can't roll lower than a 10 on any ability checks we're proficient with. And their damage gets even better as their sneak attack goes up to 6d6. We'll raise our dexterity to 18 with our next ASI, then at 13th level our sneak attack ticks up one final time to 7d6 and we become an ambush master. We get advantage on initiative checks so we can rush to a vantage point before the enemy team gets going, and the first shot we take uses the Sydney Sleeper to make our target easier to hit. If we hit a creature during the first round of combat, then any further attacks against that creature have advantage until the start of our next turn. We'll finish up our rogue levels with Blind Sense, letting us know the location of any hidden or invisible creatures within 10 feet as long as we can hear. Scoping in severely limits our field of vision, so this should help us keep an ear out for any spies sneaking up behind us. We'll close out the build with a few levels of Fighter. The Mariner fighting style boosts our AC by 1 and gives us a climbing and swimming speed equal to our walking speed, as long as we aren't wearing heavy armor or using a shield. And Second Wind lets us heal for 1d10 plus our fighter level as a bonus action once per rest. Similarly, Action Surge can also be used once per rest, but this one lets us take a second action on our turn. Do keep in mind that even if we do use this to make another attack, we can only use our sneak attack once per turn, and Steady Aim only affects one attack per turn. Becoming a champion at 3rd level slots in the final piece of the headshot puzzle by expanding our crit range to 19 or 20, and our capstone is the 4th level of fighter for one last ASI to cap off our dex. Now that the build is complete, let's take a look and see what we have done. Right off the bat, we can deal massive damage with our rifle. I'm using the hunting rifle stats from the DMG, which deals 2d10 piercing with a short range of 80 feet and a long range of 240. So our most damaging possible headshot is critting with a sharpshooter rifle shot with advantage, for a total of 5d10 plus 16d6 from sneak attack and hunter's mark, plus 15, for a maximum of 161 damage in a single shot, which is enough to down any of the other TF2 builds that I've made at their average HP, except for the soldier who goes down to about 30-35 or so. And with steady aim and sharpshooter, we can get advantage out to 240 feet, with improved critical doubling our crit chance. Unfortunately, we're a lot less strong in melee. As best I can tell, Sniper's Kukri most closely equates to a hand axe in function, meaning it's strength-based and can't use our sneak attack, so if we get cornered, then we're at a big disadvantage. We're also heavily limited on spells, since we only know 2 and only have 2 slots, though we can cast Hunter's Mark and Locate Object for free once per day each. Also, neither of our spells is especially useful at super long range. Fairy Fire is the higher priority, and it's only got a range of 60 feet, while Absorb Elements is defensive and really more of a last resort. Plus, Fairy Fire takes up our concentration, so we can't use it with Hunter's Mark or Favored Foe. Speaking of, let's talk about Favored Foe for a second. I actually like it better for this build than Hunter's Mark, which is why I didn't pick Hunter's Mark over Absorb Elements to let us cast it more times per day. Now, Favored Foe only gives us a d4 per turn at this level, while Hunter's Mark gives us a d6 per hit, but since we're only making one attack per turn, the difference is pretty negligible. We also get twice as many uses of Favored Foe as we would have for Hunter's Mark, which somewhat makes up for not being able to move the Favored Foe to another creature when the first one dies. And crucially, Favored Foe doesn't have a range. We just tag a creature when we hit them, even if they're the full 240 feet out. Whereas Hunter's Mark has to A, be cast before finding out if we hit or miss, and B, only has a range of 90 feet. Hunter's Mark does have a couple of other advantages, like lasting up to an hour and advantage on checks to find the creature, but for this build's purposes, I do prefer Favored Foe.
Professionals have standards. Be polite. Be efficient. Have a plan to kill everyone you meet.
Thank you for watching, friends. I hope you enjoy the build. Head on over to my community tab if you want to vote for the next character for me to do. This week is between Alex Mack from The Secret World of Alex Mack, Rod Kimball from the movie Hot Rod, Arjuna from Fate, and our runner-up from last time, Shiro from Voltron. If you have any feedback or suggestions for characters you'd like to see me build, please leave them in the comments below, and they could show up in a future poll. Leave a like or subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks again for watching. I will see y'all later.